Hello. Welcome to the Astropub, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the office hours. Ruining people's schedules. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Chiller, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astropub. Your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. How y'all doing? Oh, I forgot to change the title, didn't I? On the YouTube stream, or the Twitch stream, I should say. Thought I changed it, but I didn't. There we go. Hey, Radar. Citizen and Citizen. I'm getting better. Still coughing, but getting better. What I really need is a haircut. Hey, Zeta. I forgot to do my, We'll do it live. Fuck it. Yeah. Forgot to do my restream, but it's all right. I will do my other thing I do. All right. Too many citizens. We should hold a brawl. Well, to whittle us down. Exactly. So they're doing a release candidate today. It's likely going to come out this week. Actually, it is coming out this week, come hell or high water. So hopefully y'all ready for it. My question is, as always, do you believe it is ready, chat? Ready-ish. Ready to go up in flames. I don't know. It seemed fine to me. Again, I haven't really fucked around with a lot of the engineering features as much. I've played a little test to test out frames per second. It seems to work fine. I even successfully bedlogged. Awesome. I haven't experienced fire yet, but the VR is simply amazing, even unpolished like it is. Give me 2 seconds, chat. I'll be right back. I was surprised waking up on my 400. I forgot I had woke up to 230 FPS. Damn. Aside from balance related stuff, it seems fine that is with the PU number not on live, not live. Vulcan is great though. Is with PTU number not live. Yes, that's a good point. When live happens, we're gonna see a lot more stuff explode, but we'll see. I'll be right back, chat. Don't go anywhere.
Good news, everyone!
Weapons free, y'all.
Good news, everyone!
Stand by for Titanfall.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Our PCs will emulate our ships. Fire for everyone. Yeah, but like every major gameplay update, the Bush Live will be a fucking dumpster fire. We all know that. That is inevitable. It'll be even more spicy since they will be on break. I'll probably play a little bit of I'll probably play a little bit of Star Citizen off stream, but I'll definitely be playing on stream. You've been banging your head against CIG's design choices for like 2 years now, Iris. If anyone is due a break, it's probably you, because you've been getting all of the shit luck when it comes to actually playing the game. But 4 years, yeah. Taking a bit of a break to just like experience something else is always a good idea. Yeah, that's about right, yeah. Time is a flat circle. That's what it is. Engineering is going to need months to balance out. Progress needs to happen. They just need to get it out from start adjusting more than they already have. Yes. I mean, that's been my perspective, is they need to just sort of send it. They need to send it, and pretty much just that should be the motto. You know, the patch always pushes should return to just fucking send it. new feature, just fucking send it. I'm also a chaos gremlin though. So like for me, barely functioning gameplay is better than stale gameplay that doesn't change because other than adding new content. I love stories. I love CIG's universe, the world that they've created, and I believe they can do well. It's just I also know they don't have all the tools they need to tell those stories and do cool things. So they should be focusing on those tools like they have in the past. This last year was simply them going, okay, people want us to slow down and shut the fuck up and just make the game, so we'll just make the game. And not make the game, but like, you know, like just make it stable and play so we can play. They did it, and they got a lot of reward for it. But it's like, you're just going to end up the same way. Engineering is going to do the same thing no matter what, if you released it in January of this year or December of this year, it's going to do the same thing. Honestly, I think it was they needed time to stabilize server meshing. They needed to sit through and actually stabilize it, and they budgeted themselves like 9 months to get it done, and it took them about that long. I'm gone for like a week and a half for my girlfriend's surgery and come back in fucking VR? You take more breaks, I guess. Yes. The difference is releasing it before they go on break will get them more data. I mean, yes, but it'll also break the game. Yes, which is why I found the 4.0 release preview thing they did was a good idea. I think they should have done that more often. But clearly CIG disagrees. I'd imagine doing a 4.0 preview would be costly in server time, having to spin up extra servers for it all. Yeah. But they also made $150 million. They made an additional like $30 million this year. They can eat the cost to make sure that their loyal fan base has a somewhat stable game to play plus dumpster fire. Paul, do you think that knowing Stosis' lore will do more than just help build connection and immersion in the world? I.e. knowing where huge battles took place? That's what was the idea behind CIG's initial pitch for the lore. I think to a degree it will, but I don't think it will be instant. I think that'll be a post 1.0 sort of push by CIG. I do think it'll help you a little bit in terms of understanding the direction of what stories are going and also where things will be. So, like, events will pop up if you're paying attention. Like, the easiest things that CIG can do is they already have the wild lines being done by random civilians. For those wild lines to mention something, have it populate in your Galactopedia, find it.
You can take away my spaceship.
Ship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
Never.
ever take away my space game.
Gifted at Luna, membership. At Luna Maria-94 celebrates 26 months of membership. Good to see you, Paul07.
Thank you so much for that. 26 months of support there, Luna. You're very important, Papa. Very impressed, Spencer. Very pedestrian. This is your fault. There's no drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. But yeah, I think having simple things where paying attention to the universe you're in and the stories and little fluff pieces that are around you to build immersion actually pays off to some sort of result will probably be the early direction that CIG goes, because it's easier to do and it's more rewarding for players. It teaches the players that the universe is a living thing.
At Luna, super short at $3.61. Throws money at dancing bartender.
Thank you for that $5 Canadian there, Luna. Because that's just the easiest. It's a simple way of teaching your players that the narrative matters, that the story around you is going on, and that there's a universe beyond you and your missions and your friends doing missions. There's other things going on. That's how you build a living, breathing world that has impact and people care about. Because at the end of the day, Chris Roberts loves that kind of shit. That's his crack. That's his bread and butter. That is his raison d'etre. He always brings up what was the motto of Origin Softworks: "We build worlds," and that's what he wants to do. He wants to build a world with Star Citizen, and building a world requires people to give a shit. And the best way of making people give a shit is making sure that things in the universe matter to them in a way that impacts their gameplay. That's it. Just checked. It looks like CIG is about 80K away from 150 million. When 4.5 goes live, they'll break it. Even without a new ship, they'll break that. Then why did he let next one happen? Because the game isn't finished yet. That's why. I'm also not going to sit here and say that Chris Roberts is the best storyteller in the universe. But every story has flaws. There's not a single story or story-driven game or movie or comic book or television show that doesn't have something where you sit and go, well, that's a flaw. And yeah, I don't like it. I think CIG needs to make it work, and I don't think they will. But at the end of the day, I don't think that defeats the point of what CIG is planning to do. But again, as I said, I don't think they'll actually have knowing the lore will help you out until after 1.0. I assume today's broken 150 mil? No, it's about 80K under. But it might. Oh, you just said that, yeah. Question. What do you think the first 5 features we'll get next year? Crafting, base building, social tools, etc.? we're definitely going to get crafting, scanning, FPS and ship scanning. I don't think base building, but I do think possibly some of the other stuff that supports crafting. So like refining gameplay. And then like repair, rearm, refuel gameplay, because that's another thing they want to do. And maybe social tools. They have said jack and or shit about social tools, though in my opinion, that should be the number one priority after. Oh wait, we forgot inventory. It'll be inventory. Are we really going to get crafting before data running? Yeah. Yeah, no, CIG needs to get the social tools in before fleet ops. If they're doing fleet ops, they have this current social tools. It might as well just throw in the towel. Let's take a look. All right. Known issues. Incorrect ship is displayed on the ASOP. There's a chance that a blank information of a vehicle will appear in hangar delivery request using the ASOP tool. Kiosk. When using engineering kiosk, the vehicle model can become offset by actor moving it around. Vandal tech smuggler's auxiliary station laptop with the code is missing. So the mission they just released is broken. Good. ASD Onyx facility research locations. Loot door room doesn't open after selecting override. Multi vehicle PU. Room connectors for external doors can be slow to update when entering and leaving hangars. Fire alarm sound effects persist after fire extinguished until re-entering affected room. And then death mask VFX does not always trigger. I don't know what that means. Okay. Gameplay. VR. Added an option for automatic recenter upon entering FPS ADS. Removed confirmation and cancel buttons from ASOP quick search. Ships and vehicles. Slight Talon thruster output increase. Size 1 bearing ballistic Gatling PDC overheat balance. Oh, weapons and items. Added Cambio Light SRT canister and Cambio Light SRT Cambio SRT canister and full RMC canisters to shops. Okay. They didn't have them before shops, that's right. Maybe they did, but I don't remember where. Not the full ones, at least. These are all bug fixes, so they got a lot of bug fixes. See. Wonder how much the Carrack will be able to craft, crafting wise. Probably not much. The PTU shouldn't be showing up in your live tab. It should be showing up on PTU, but it did just get pushed to PTU. Besides all of them, Paul, what do you think are the major blockers for the PTU as it sits? My guess would be performance issues, possibly. And this is a release candidate, so it's just a matter of, like, none of them. It's just a matter of will it break? And if it doesn't break, they'll push it. Thank you, Thorn. Cool. So these streams will be a little bit shorter on Mondays, because generally speaking, I do shorter streams on Mondays until we do do the full swap over where office hours ends up on Mondays, then we're just going to keep doing shorter streams on Monday and Thursday, especially since there's really not any new information. In fact, this Thursday, if everything goes well, I'll be streaming a co-op stream with Tomato. We'll be doing something, a special something. Depends on if everything works out real well for that Thursday. Potential fix PU. Vehicle on display for sale will catch on fire due to power plant failure. That's funny. Weird, I was in PTU and got kicked out, and now they won't let me in, but 4 or 5 PTU is showing on my live. Hope they didn't push the wrong place. Nah, I would close down the launcher and restart it. Just walk into Astro Armada and see a flaming hawk. So, for those of you who missed it, on Sunday, I did play with my old VR set up. Played Star Citizen VR, and my experience was, it was good. It's solid. It's surprisingly solid for being experimental. It's in a good position. There's a couple of problems with it, like the way that they do the setup. It's actually just like twin eyes and then overlaps. They have the markers for locations on one eye. It's on the right, and one eye it's on the left, so it's doubled up when you're looking at things, and that can get kind of cross-eyed-y, kind of weird. FPS is still a little funky because you control up and down, left and right. Well, left and right. Ooh. You control up and down with your cursor, with your mouse, but you can't like move it around like you normally can. I think Hankin got it sorted out-ish. Yeah, IPD adjustment needs to be honed in more for VR. And it seems to be fuzzy as well. Moments of great clarity, but then right back to kind of fuzzy. He was testing in VR. Yeah. Okay. Like, again, it's effectively one to a handful of dudes' side project to get this done. It's great for what it is. The thing about the IPD is that it'll be different for every headset in person. Then you need a little bit more fine controls over how to fix it then. I have it plugged in. I have a CV1, so it's a hard line. I just plugged it in, got it set up through the MetaQuest, and then the Horizon Link, and then you set it up through once it's plugged in and working. Then you set it up through Star Citizen itself. As long as your computer recognizes your headset as a device. Paul, if you had one choice to add anything, feature or gameplay, instantly, what would it be and why? Scanning. Because it's super important. It's kind of like engineering. It's like one of those super detailed things that needs to get added. If you had to guess what ship was possibly coming with the 4.5 patch, what would it be? Not a clue. I couldn't tell you. The only one that is even like hinted at is the Hermes, I think. And there's been no like file evidence of it or anything else like that. So not a clue. You wouldn't choose the economy or full DSM? No, because you need scanning and a lot of those other things for gameplay to matter. Full DSM doesn't fucking matter. Like all that is scaling. Full DSM is required for scaling, and that's it. And economy doesn't matter until you actually have gameplay in. There's no point in having a dynamic economy if certain aspects of the game that make it more difficult or make it more interesting, like Death of a Spaceman, things like hangar fees, wear and tear and repair, crafting, all of that stuff needs to be in the game, because all you're going to get with an economy system right now is a hollow economy that you have to update as you go along anyways. So like, and they already have the bones. The bones already exists for the star. Is it Star Economy? I forgot what it was called. Star something. Star Sim. They already have the bones for Star Sim. It's how your fuel and repair costs are registered. It's just a matter of scaling that out. Hey Al, how you doing? Yeah, it definitely needs. You need scanning for something like crafting. I would have normally said the new quantum systems, but like the new quantum systems also need scanning. Scanning, in my opinion, is one of the most important features that we have yet to see or CIG even talk about in like 2 years. Scanning isn't sexy, but it's necessary. Yeah. They have the star bones for Mr. Star Suspenders and his Star Sim. And they need to get Star BGS and Star Scanner and Star Social System. Yeah, I mean... No, I agree. They need to get the social tools in. And I think it's important. But I think it's important if you want content. And I don't want content. My current... What I would choose for priority, but I'm not CIG, and I don't know CIG's internal path, is engineering, which you're working on, scanning, crafting, social tools. Those are the 4 things I would do. And crafting and social tools will probably be equally important if they can get them done at the same time. The inventory is important too, but the inventory update isn't nearly as valuable as the rest of those. You could do inventory after social tools because it could be incorporated into there. They need stars too, lest we forget. Game mechanics over content, get it working and flesh it out. Exactly. There's no point in putting content out if you're going to break it with every new update. The problem with scanning the things is they're thinking about it. Once it's in, they have no content to scan. All caves are pretty much their same. Lots of empty locations, etc. Advert. What? It doesn't matter. Nerve-wrecked. It doesn't matter if they're the same, if they don't have a lot of content to scan. The point is not content. The point of features is not content. The point of features is features. Content can be added after you have features. Like, social systems are important. Why? Because if you want to do big scale things, you need social systems. But I'd much rather have social systems in before they do big scale things. Because then you have the social systems to deal with big scale things. You don't want big scale things in and then do social systems, because that's ass backwards. How long do you think until we get a decent balance pass? Like the whole game? 2 years. No, my guess is that to be part of it being in is some of them are worried about it not having content yet, which is fundamentally a big mistake. If that's CIG's mentality, it's wrong. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how you make video games. Because we have done this for 13 years now. CIG has been producing this game for longer than most games have had life cycles. And the one consistent problem they have is every time they try to produce content before they have the features, the content breaks when they add new features in. So there's no point in adding new content until you have the features. It doesn't matter if there's nothing to scan, as long as you have scanning working. Because there's still things to scan, it's just not a lot. X. Yeah, Ghost Hollow is a great example. Ghost Hollow is a good is a good idea that needs work. But because it was put in mostly to generate attention, it was busy work to get people to log in, it has basically disappeared, and they've abandoned it because they got to eventually fix it up. And by the time they get around to fixing it up, like they're doing with like Siege of Orison, they'll have to figure out how to make it in a way that makes sense for Star Citizen 1.0. I also really want to finish the flight model. It seems important for a game where flight model is such a big part. We should start getting used to how ships will act in atmosphere and space. I agree, but that's my point. I've always been, this is not new. Anyone who's known me for long enough knows this is not new. I have always been a move fast and break shit. Get the fucking things done and then make the content. And the more they've made the content and not did the fucking things, the more the content breaks pretty much on a yearly basis. They abandon it, and then all of that work and effort that they went to making the content is pointless. What was it on, X? The longest episode for an Inforunner. So what was that on? True, because things will break anyways. Exactly. There's no way you're going to ever not make something perfectly in a live environment like they're doing. Just fucking send it. Fix my org. 1 hour, 52 minutes, 48 seconds. Damn. The more content we get before features, the more that content will have to be retooled later on to fit the new features in. Exactly. Or it will just be broken and then you have to fix it. And that requires more maintenance on something that somebody else did that nobody wants to fucking do. Like, if you got a job, let's just say at an office, generic office bureaucratic job, would you prefer a project that you had 100% control over and could figure out from the beginning to end of how it works, or inherit a project from somebody else who quit 4 years ago and that project has been set in limbo for 4 years? Your job when you first come in is to make it work with what the company wants it to do now, because the company has changed over the last 4 years, so they have to retool the project from basically the start. But you need to keep X, Y, or Z features still in there because other members of the company are still used to that and they need to fix it. And so you need to have those elements. And if you don't, you're going to get, shouted at. Like, that's the problem. Nobody would want to pick up somebody else's slop. Dang, both sounds like things I've had to do because I work for a living. Yes, and it sucks. Which is why it's better to not just do the fucking project that's going to get abandoned halfway and just focus on building the company so you know what you're fucking making. I've done both, Paul. I sort of people. Which one's more exciting for you, Jen? Life does suck, but at the end of the day, you also have to keep people engaged and hired. Kind of unrelated, I guess, but my buddy plays Eve and says they literally can't change the outpost system because the guy who coded it died and no one has any idea how it works. That's just bad bad, what's it called? Documentation. Just shitty documentation. Then again, engineers generally these days are disincentivized from documentation, because if they document everything they do, they're fired and replaced by a cheaper person, and that person has all of the notes that the other person made. So it's better to code like you're a fucking wizard doing an alchemic arts than it is to actually document what's going on. Yeah, they can't replace me if they can't decipher the runes. Exactly. Question: what larger capital ships do we get next year? You see any straight to flyable capitals coming in the future? No, but I do think we'll get possibly the Kraken. We're definitely getting the Ironclad and the Galaxy. I just really want them to finish the. Oh yeah, there's that. Liberty is starting its work, but it's not going to be done next year. I really wish it was, but we'll see. How many modules do you think the Galaxy released with? The ones that it was sold with. Cargo, medical, and refinery. I'd argue internally a bit on whether they need to get finalized world building going for a lot more features pushed out, unless the features will mess with world building in some way. All the features will mess with world building. Features are more important than world building. Think of the Star Citizen universe as a rough draft in terms of world build. So the universe itself has some anchor points which are important for the game, like the UEE, the Vanduul, so on and so forth, stuff that connects to Squadron. But everything else needs to be is still in flux. And the more they develop the game, the more that the story has to be tailored to the gameplay that's being developed. So the features are important. The story is there to connect to the features. You can kind of think of it like there's no point in writing the dialogue for characters in a comic book before you have the outlines and the direction of that comic, the art style of that comic book, the art of that comic book. But you have frames of what the idea, an outline, like a what do they call it? A storybook or storyboard of the way that the comic's going to lay out. It's just a matter of writing what the story's going to be overall, and then maybe getting some dialogue ideas, and then seeing where things go. But there's no point in finalizing dialogue before you have all of that stuff done. Will the Liberator get bigger? And will it be capital when it's done? I think it'll get bigger. I don't know if it'll be a capital. What do you think the new price of the Lorelin will be? I couldn't tell you. Question, can you tell us about the history of your favorite starship, the Redeemer? No, because it doesn't have a history. It doesn't have a lore. It has contradictory lore. To be fair, the messiest, the single worst and most disastrous lore is actually the Hercules. The Hercules... No, not the Hercules. What was the Hercules? It's either Hercules or the Valkyrie. I think it's the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is the single worst written lore piece ever. In terms of context of time, in terms of its narrative story arc, in terms of like pretty much everything. It's a neat idea, but it's mishandled entirely. Can we get one show without someone mentioning the Redeemer? No. Because people now know, I don't like it, so, you know. We're gonna bring it up because I think it's funny. Similar to my grandkids will be paying for playing this jokes. Yeah, it gets old. All right, let me put it this way. This is probably a video at some point. Star Citizen is the textbook way of not making a video game. Star Citizen is not the model you should ever use, period, to make any sort of project. It's also 100% never, ever, ever, there will never be another Star Citizen. There will never be a project like Star Citizen. Good or ill, there will never be a universe-scaled MMO, multiple worlds with this level of detail. This would never happen. This will never be made again. There will be no... People always say, oh, which the Star Citizen killer? There will be no Star Citizen killer. There will be not a single company that is willing to take on the amount of work and risks that CIG has to build a game like Star Citizen because it doesn't make enough money. With CIG's size, at best, they make a little bit of money. And by a little bit of money, I mean like a couple $1 million. And while that's a lot to me and to you, to a corporation, that's actually a failure. Remember, most projects, especially media projects, require to double the cost of their... to make double the cost of the actual cost of making it in order for it to be considered financially successful. So with that in mind, the cost to make Star Citizen is so fucking high that the only types of people who would be able to fund it would be major studios or huge investors. And those investors would demand a return on their investment. And same with the studios. And those studios, like AAA publishers, would not see, because Star Citizen doesn't make money. They would need, if it cost $150 million to run the studio a year, it's usually like 130, then they need to bring in for the studio at least $300 million a year. And there's like a handful of games that ever do that. And Star Citizen would never be able to double that amount of money, period. But they have no production costs. The people are the production costs. They got to pay all the people. Yeah, it only has 6 million accounts over 13 years. It's pretty small. Like your comic analogy. So you mean I shouldn't cast Scarlett Johansson for my new movie before I write the plot and hire the film crew? Basically, yeah. It's the model every game company would like to use, yeah. And of course, it'd be done with AI, yeah. Roll my eyes even further. Because there's no profit motivation, because there's no profit incentive, no company would ever make a Star Citizen competitor. The best you would ever get is a No Man's Sky, a Elite Dangerous, or a like a Starfield. And I guarantee you, while all of those studios and all those games made a profit, Starfield probably made more profit than any of the other ones. There's a reason why Frontier Dev, FDev, works on other games outside of Elite. Elite does well. It's financially successful, but it is not enough money to keep them in the green forever. So they have to make other games that can make up the difference. It's almost exactly what CIG's plan is. The reason why Squadron 42 exists is because Chris Roberts wants to make Squadron 42, but the idea is that it's a lot easier to make a single-player game once you have everything built out and make copies of that game, meaning part 2, part 3, and then other things, than it is to build an MMO. And then they can use the money from those single-player games to fund the MMO. Yeah, Skyward Squadron's another look, but all of those were much more limited in scale and scope compared to Star Citizen. Star Citizen is not a universe scale. It's not even a galaxy. It'll have 5 systems. Lots of other space sims exceed Star Citizen scale. No Man's Sky's a universe, Elite as a galaxy. True. But No Man's Sky's universe is mostly empty. It's mostly copy-paste, and it isn't really to scale. And while the Elite has the galaxy, only about, a fourth of the galaxy, if that, is actually got any sort of content built into it. Most of that is copy-pasted or has developed over time, but it is still fairly similar to other content you can find in other systems. There's no really unique system, like there's not like millions of unique systems that have unique storylines and all that kind of stuff. There are unique systems like Soul, and there are other ones that I remember off the top of my head, which all can have story elements to them, but not all of them are going to have those story elements. Most of what Elite is a sandbox. Same with No Man's Sky. Star Citizen was never going to go for, thousands of systems. It was going to peak out about like 130. But the point is that those systems are detailed. They have individual factions which have their own lore, their own armor, their own storytelling, and that was always going to be the case. It was going to be the focus on the scale in the sense of its scale from big to small. Yeah, CIG could do the same thing that Elite Dangerous or No Man's Sky did, which is just copy paste and then reuse a lot of content. But I'm going to Bar Citizens coming up soon. When is it? I'll probably will. December 27th? I'll go probably after Captain's Table. Okay, now he goes to Bar Citizens. Yeah. I said I'd go after Captain's Table because they always do it on fucking Saturdays. And Saturdays are when I do Captain's Table. Now I've moved Captain's Table a little earlier, so it usually ends around 5 or 6 my time. And they usually started around 5 or 6, so. My point being of my big rant is that there is no incentive outside of passion to make a game like Star Citizen. There's a reason why we haven't seen 1,000 Elite Dangerous clones or 1,000 No Man's Sky clones, even though those come as close as possible to what Star Citizen is doing. There will never be a Star Citizen killer. It just will not exist. There is no way that there's any incentive or tools available for people to make a Star Citizen scale game. Fuck, what is it? Starborn, I think is the name of it. Starborn 2 has recently come out. That's made by one dude. It is made by one dude, but has the same problem, is that it's mostly just copy and pasted. But it's an attempt at Star Citizen scale, but has the same issue. Which is another reason why no one should ever use Star Citizen as a model to make a video game. Because it just doesn't work. And before anyone goes, oh, but the incentive is to always make the game. No. The incentive is to make money, but you don't make money with Star Citizen. Besides that, the whole planning situation is fucking-verted. There was no plan for what the game was going to be beyond their initial estimates. And then the second that they had a chance to expand those initial estimates, they did. And then they never updated their plans. Yeah, it's a cautionary tale. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm just dealing with cough and stuff like that. I'm gonna get some water so my voice doesn't die. All right, be right back. And yet here we are playing this stupid game that says more about us than it does CIG, I think. It does. The main point I was saying a lot of this is that conventional wisdom when it comes to gaming doesn't make any sense with Star Citizen and never will. And the frustrations that we encounter with CIG are entirely moted in the fact that CIG fundamentally fucked up 7 years ago and are now trying to fix the fuck ups. Which is why I will reiterate one more time, I would much rather CIG release all the features as quickly as possible, break the game, and then fix the problems. You're misunderstanding my definition of scale, Luna. You assume my scale means grand scale in terms of huge scale. What I mean is scale in terms of scaling. But I'm not going to argue over semantics for it with this. Seven years ago, when did Arena Commander release? March 15th, 2015. So about 10 years ago. AC isn't a mistake. The problem was they didn't have a fundamental plan of what the fuck they were doing when they were started to actually make the game. And Arena Commander is the first time they were making the game. There's a whole episode that I'm going to do on the Captain's Table about Mech Warrior and how CIG should have used or should still use games like Mech Warrior as a blueprint for making a game like Star Citizen. Because there's a lot of similarities between Mech Warrior and Star Citizen. And also by 2015, they had been making, like, let me look up their funding tracker. By 2015, they had made a total of over $100 million. They were like, by March of 2015, they were coming into like $60-70 million. When their original goal was like 10 million or 10 to 30 million. In terms of like, if we need to make a full game, it'd be 30 million. So at that point, funding wise, they were set. They just needed to focus on gameplay basics. I don't know. That's my point. Is the scaling of Star Citizen? No game does the scale that Star Citizen does in terms of its scaling from big ships to tiny on foot stuff. Elite gets close, but it's still got wonky scales because of its not being built as a game with that intention. It was always built as a spaceship game, and it was sort of added on all of the FPS mechanics. And as far as I understand, they still don't even have internals for like going around inside of a ship and you know, utilizing the ship internally. The fidelity that Star Citizen's going for just doesn't really exist. No Man's Sky only recently did that with their big ship update that they just did. But even then, it still doesn't have that same sort of fidelity because it's a survival game. This is getting back into semantic shit. Let's just focus on what the point I'm trying to say. Yes, I'm gonna get bops on that. Bops is the one who suggested that. Because, like, the fundamental beginning problem that Star Citizen has is classification. Star Citizen is a ship game, and they should have had classifications for ships of, like, by 1.1, by Arena Commander 1.1. Like, this is a small ship, this is a medium ship, this is a large ship, and this is a capital ship. This is what makes them those things. And then we can create categories that can work with each of these, and you can invent those categories as you go. That way, you could slot all of the ships they already had into those categories, and every time they made a new ship, they could build it with those metrics in mind. Oh gosh, what's a Corvette, etc. Exactly. Like, you can have a capital ship that is a Corvette. Now you have a classification and a size. You can have a large ship that is a gunship. You could also have a medium ship that's a gunship. Then that way you have okay, we know what a medium is, we know what a large is, what's the classification of that ship is going to matter, and then you can copy those classifications across all of the different versions. That is what MechWarrior does. That's what BattleTech did from its original creation. What was called, like, BattleBots or something like that. I can't remember its original name. That's a tabletop RPG or tabletop war game. The idea being, you have light, medium, heavy, and assault mechs. They're defined by their tonnage that they have, and then you have roles that you can then insert into each of those mechs. You could have a scout assault mech. Not necessarily a good idea, but you could do that. Battle droids, thank you, yeah. I'll be fine with that, Paul, if they did features faster. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people would. The problem would be, fundamentally, CIG would lose money. That process would make them lose money. Because they would release games, patches that would be fundamentally unstable. I disagree on Cyberpunk having a higher scale than Star Citizen. Oh yes, Charger 101. But that's the point. If CIG had sat down and did something like that, and stuck to it, we wouldn't have to re-fucking build ships from scratch. The problem is that CIG, in theory, has those ideas right now. But because of that stupid fucking idea of never be afraid of a good idea, they throw away all of their work every 2 years when they completely come up with new bullshit. It's like, this is dumb as shit. This is not how you make a fucking game. I don't even care if it's a video game. This is not how you make a game that has rules that people play by. Question: why is Kruger the best manufacturer? Because they're just the GOAT. Let's build things in general. Well, some things can change when you start a plan for an idea and some things change. And I've always brought up the fact that like many of the games that exist today, which are some of the most loved games in gaming, started out as completely different from what they originally were planned as. The difference is that like Halo was originally going to be an RTS, then a third-person shooter, and finally a first-person shooter. But they didn't build out an entire goddamn like story and a story arc and like mechanics and everything else like that for a third-person shooter, and then move it over to a first-person shooter. They had concepts and they built ideas in, and they were working things through and working on camera angles and stuff like that and models. But those things they could reuse as they developed the idea. Once they were like, we're doing this and we have to release at X date, they had a fucking fundamental thing that they worked on. Question, can I just take parts out and fix a salvage mission ship and use it now in 4.5? No. The salvage mission ships are all still derelicts, so they're not fixable. They're spawned in as unique wrecks. Tristan got me a job as a network engineer. Once I discovered what they were trying to do, I was incredibly interested in how they were going to do it. And well, with what a rarity hole that ended up being, a rabbit hole that ended up being. Hey. Question, according to you, Space Ranger, you mean Radar Ranger, Space Tomato, and how great engineering is, why are you three the least played in-game creators? What? Source? Hey, Deskilla. Radar Ranger doesn't stream. It's a fallacy of no true Scotsman sort of thing. You know, well, it's the, you know, you can't criticize something unless you've done it yourself. Okay, you two play Star Citizen the least. Have you seen me play Star Citizen? I haven't played Star Citizen recently, granted. But I do play Star Citizen probably about 2 or 3 times a week. And Tomatoes plays it like every day.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit.
My point is you don't criticize it?
My space lasers.
No, your point is you don't like it when I criticize because you want me to hate it, not criticize it.
Take away my space game.
Symphony of Steel just resubscribed for 13 months. Them biddies.
Thank you for them biddies. They're biddies. For the 13 months of support, their Symphony Steel, very important, but very specific, very pedestrian. This your fault. That we started drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Yeah, I played it for about 3 hours yesterday. I played it for about 3 hours the day before that. I played a little bit of it offline on Friday because I didn't have a lot of time. I played it on Sunday, last Sunday, Saturday. I didn't play it on Friday. I don't think that day. But usually I play it about like 10 hours a week. Tomato's playing right now. What I say, Darth, is you're a very important pubber, very impressive pisser, very inebriated pedestrian. This is your fault. You're the reason why I drink at night. So it's a play on VIP. Didn't you just spend like 25 minutes critiquing Star Citizen? Yeah, that's the problem. Do you believe that's all it needs? What? You say that the podcast that it's true form right now and needs adjustments. You don't believe that then? I do. I believe the basic bones of the game, of the system, are fine. The idea that specific systems will take damage, and those systems that take damage will need to be replaced or repaired, and that your functionality of your ship is based off of those systems, not based off of the whole of your ship exclusively. Did you even paying attention to what I said? Because I even said that, like, the idea of funneling damage once you've gone through the armor from the hull to the power plant is stupid. And I can see possibly what it might be there for ships that don't have the full systems in. But yeah, because fundamentally the engineering system doesn't change how you play the game. Your average person will not see the difference. The people who are going to matter the most, it's going to infect the most, are the people who play PvP or combat. And that changes a lot because of how you have to manage more things. You have to do more things to pay attention to. Yeah, I'm talking about engineering. What is armor other than an arbitrary number attached to the back end? What's the point of it aside from an increased health pool? Defense. Because it's not just where your systems are, it's also piping in and out. Now, it's not physicalized because the original idea was physicalization. Now I think it's just digital. But the idea that you transport power around the ship as well as heat that you have to manage means that if your parts of your ship get damaged, those pipes get damaged and then release heat or power gets destroyed, which is why they have relays, which then causes you to have to fix those things in order to function them or become less functional. I know they're arguing in good faith. I'm just trying to see what he's getting at. Because if he starts doing circular logic, I'll just ignore it like usual. But so RNG, where are those values associated? What are you talking about? If you have a cable that stretches from one end of the ship to another end of the ship, and a bullet shoots through the fucking cable, it is no longer attached from one end to the other. So you have to go fix the cable. In this case, it is used as a relay, where they have the little fuse. And that fuse acts as the fix for that cable. And if you ran something from that cable from one end to the other, like power, you wouldn't be able to use it until you repaired the cable. That's the basic gist of why armor matters. Otherwise, there are portions of the ship which are basically empty. So you could blow fucking holes in them, but you need those holes, those places to be able to keep in atmosphere. That's the other action, is atmosphere. Because if you have atmosphere and you take holes, then you lose atmosphere, which means that it's harder to live in that area. I just pulled a random scenario out of my ass. What are you talking about? That's literally how pipes work, dude. They're not physicalized in the sense you could go over and punch a pipe. They're physicalized in the sense that they are located somewhere on a ship and can take damage. The way that they become physicalized in terms of actually being able to play with them is the fuses, like the little relay boxes. Those act as the physicalization. It's all unfinished. Maelstrom is needed for the ship engineering system. It is. Maelstrom is the idea that you can apply and remove armor from various locations to protect those areas. No, it's it's a number attached to the exterior of the ship that protects those fuse boxes, but not just those fuse boxes. Also, things like hull integrity will matter in terms of things like atmosphere. Because eventually your suits, they already do, but your suits are going to use more atmosphere than they already do, which means that you'll need to have some kind of atmosphere to continue to exist living on your ship. Yeah, it just reduces incoming damage. It's like a bulletproof vest doesn't have a purpose other than to stop a bullet from killing you. Does that mean it's necessarily going to work 100% of the time? No, there's other problems with it. And when it gets shot, it's fucked. You don't shoot a bulletproof vest multiple times because it reduces the integrity. Armor works the same way. Where's the armor attached? To the hull. To the outside of the hull. Think of it like, using a video game term, think of it like overshields or shields in a game like Halo. Only there's no regen for these shields. What about primates and nicks? Let's visit that rage bait topic. I have said that the main way that CIG can fix that problem is by making it recent, which they did. And now the way that they make it matter is if they actually make it matter. It has to be a story-driven thing. Undershields, yeah. To use a similar idea, Jump Space uses a similar concept. So in Jump Space, there is a shield, but the shields are physicalized. You actually have to go out and install shields physically and print them out using like their little repair goo. I forget what it's called. But they're called shields. That's how armor works. Hey, Paul, completely unrelated. My DM let me pick a drown spell in D&D. Am I a bad person for picking it? I have no idea. With Nyx, I think they'll make it matter based off of the wild lines I've heard throughout the leveling. I hope they do. I don't have faith in their ability to actually tell a meaningful story that will actually require player input and impact. I fill with the lungs with water with a spell. I mean, depends on the kind of character you're playing. Let's move away from Star Citizen for a second, so I can understand how wonky this is. In EverQuest, armor class actually means something according to what you're wearing. If I have a BP that says 1000 AC, it will mitigate percentage of incoming damage in my overall health pool. My armors also can degrade, which further allows incoming damage. That's how armor works in Star Citizen. The difference is that the current armor doesn't give a shit about what damage is coming in. It mitigates all damage, but even the smallest amount of damage can chip away at that armor level. If you go into Star Citizen, if you go into the engineering consoles, you can actually see the armor percentages and how they work. The problem is right now, there's no physicalization. It's just basically a different health pool. But that different health pool is sort of ablative. It doesn't actually impact your actual ship. It can soak up more damage. So it's sort of like a health bar that ticks down over time. And then once it's gone, your actual armor, your hull takes damage. The goal with I think they're going to do it next year. They've talked about this, and it's definitely going to be with the Maelstrom stuff. But they said something they're going to do something like that before Maelstrom. That certain armor will be immune to certain levels of damage. So size 1 through 5, whatever, can't really do anything to armor that's classified for capitals. Using your example, it's like an AC 40, and you're hitting at it with a damage 1 weapon. You can't get past the armor. No, the armor is doing something. It's preventing the damage from hitting the hull, which is preventing damage to everything else. The fuck are you talking about, Knowledge? No, because the health pool only matters right now because of how they funnel all the damage to the power plant. But that's not the plan. That's a balance thing. That's not a design thing. If I cared enough, I could prove by simply shooting at the same ship until death in the same spot in 2 different times. Yes, because the current implementation of the pooling mechanic, where they pool all damage to the the power plant, once the armor goes down, is stupid. But that's a balance issue, not a fundamental problem with how the system works. What he's trying to say is that Star Citizen engineering is pointless because it doesn't do anything that didn't already exist in the game. It's just flashy and showy for nothing. I know knowledge enough to know when he starts arguing what he's going for. The problem is that he's claiming that I'm disingenuous when I'm saying, hey, engineering, its bones are good. Because he's saying there is no bones. Because he misunderstands the difference between bones and balance. I haven't used a salvation, no. I heard it's pretty good, though. How do you eject boxes? Doesn't it auto eject? I think there's a button for ejection. I don't know. Chat. Some people in chat might know how to eject it. Well, there's a bigger problem than just the armor, and that's because it's only disaster mitigation. There's no positive integer in this gameplay loop, thus making it a role that, despite what a lot of you think, hardly anyone will want to play. Yeah, CIG agrees with you, which is why they made it disaster mitigation rather than requirement. What you're talking about for positive integer is more along the lines of crafting. What? Crafting should not be a reinforcement to a major loop. Everything is a reinforcement to all the loops. The loop itself needs to stand on its own. Smuggling as a loop requires flying, engineering, so you have to like manage power and stuff like that. It requires scanning and how to, you know, either for like detecting you or trying to outdo the scanning. And it requires knowledge of like how to sell things. So you need trading loops. You need similar loops to like bounty hunting and combat with flight and other things like that. You also need some exploration understanding. So like there's a lot of like crossovers that the loops cross over each other because the fundamentals function like that. Mechanics do the same thing. I think CIG needs an urgent fix to the abandoned ship situation all around the PU where we see big ships abandoned. Wouldn't be an issue if you allowed us to actually salvage them better, but. Oh, you're talking about that. That issue of like people just using a ship and then reclaiming it. Yeah, that's a solution that CIG has to implement. They've tried to do it in the past and people fucking lost their goddamn minds about it, so they pulled back. But I think next year is the year they actually implement it because they're heading towards that. Since 4.5 is release candidate, 1 is out. What do you think are the chances of crafting coming out in tech preview before Christmas break? 0. Do you think there's a chance to leave crafting tech preview during break? No. Crafting doesn't change the fact that the role in a ship is just still just keep ship from dying, or your role is to make sure the ship can still have the rest of us can still have fun. Some people's idea of fun is monitoring and fixing those things. And I don't know if you've actually watched the captain's table knowledge, but what you're saying is stuff that I already said is my own critique of the engineering. Is the thing that makes engineering interesting in every science fiction is the thing that was made the gold standard by Star Trek, which is being able to reroute power and move things around to have a positive impact on the gameplay. To have access to engineering and like an accessory seat sitting down as like a co-pilot or something like that. Does that mean that the basic bones are bad? No, the basic bones are functional. They're fine. Now they just need to add more depth to the mechanic. That's what I'm saying. I'm done arguing in bad faith. Hopefully your congregation here didn't start walking out in bad faith. Knowledge. The problem comes down to you have a bias, that you refuse to admit you have a bias. And you seem to assume that every single time I speak, that I speak no ill of CIG ever. Which, based on the things I've heard in my own comment sections from what I say, is a fucking joke. And as a result of that, people assume that everything you say is based off of the idea that you want to see CIG fail, because in your own words, you want to see CIG fail. It's like, I know Iris is going to say things that they're mad about CIG from because that is their experience and that is their bias. Me and Iris will probably never agree entirely on things that like the narrative team will do. But Iris is also of the opinion that's when CIG can prove they can do it, she'll believe them. And I understand that bias. She understands that bias. We both understand that bias, but that doesn't mean that we're going to argue in bad faith, you know? Have we gotten November's? No. So we won't get November's or December's monthly reports until January. They hold off the monthly reports. They kind of combine them together. It's semi-implemented. I had ships in my hangar and I claimed them, and now I can't either enter the pilot seat if those ones are there. I've never been more happy they're about to take a bunch of time off for planning meetings. They need it. Yes.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
No pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
Northern Trooper just resubscribed for 29 months. Do we know if they are keeping the VR for the 4.5 live release?
Yes, they are. Thank you so much for that 9 months of support. You're very important, Pupper. Very impressed by any pedestrian. This is from drinking night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Paul, you also have a bias. You just downplaying the technical accomplishments of making an entire scientifically accurate galaxy as a No Man's Sky and Elite use copy and paste as if Star Citizen doesn't. I do have a bias. But so do you. Everyone has bias. That's another problem, Luna. That's a completely different problem. Your concept of you don't like opinions, only facts, and then state an opinion, and then as facts. That's a different issue. And I'm not trying to downplay Elite or No Man's Sky's achievements. It's just there's no way they could ever make unique gameplay and unique locations with that sheer number of locations. Then, yeah, Star Citizen does reuse assets, but they don't reuse entire systems. They fired the narrative team? I didn't think Elite fired his narrative team. My bias is that the way Star Citizen does proc gen, and don't like the way they do it, or I like the way that Star Citizen does proc gen, don't like the way the Elite does it in Elite and No Man's Sky. It's fine to have bias. You just realize you do. That's one of the things you learn. One of the things I learned when I went to school to be an historian. In history, one of the classes you're forced to take is called historiography, and the whole point of historiography is to show you the bias of historians. You read historical history books, but those history books are of other historians, and we're not really reading it for the history that's in the books. We're reading it for the perspective of the historians to kind of show that every historian is biased. And a part of their own time. And so part of understanding the information you gather as a historian, which is the same as any other profession that deals with narrative or with people talking, is through the understanding that each person and generation and culture has its own bias on what is or isn't true and how things work. I think all this bias talk and drama is overrated. If you like the game, play it. If you don't, go somewhere else. Life is too short for this nonsense. Agree, but I also like to talk about this stuff. Unrelated, I'm glad you told Jared to eat shit, though. Dude turned into Syndergaard 2.0. Going back to you being a white knight, which I know isn't true. I thought his joke was inappropriate. It was shitty. And the fact that a bunch of folks jumped on my ass for it was just like, I don't want that drama for no reason other than fuck Reddit. And that's going to get clipped out of context and been put on Reddit anyways because people like that sort of shit. I don't like the Reddit community because I used to be part of it a long time ago. And then I started seeing the patterns of what it goes into. And I'm like, this isn't fucking worth it. It's just the same old hype cycle every single time. And it doesn't feel constructive, and it doesn't feel like anything that I wanted to be a part of in terms of how the game discussion works. Hey, Frazzle. Stop playing with the trolls. No, I want to play with the trolls. I like Reddit, nice little echo chamber. It's the same problem with Spectrum. It's the same problem with any small community or large community, I should say, in the Star Citizen community, or in gaming, but in Star Citizen specifically, is that they all feel like they're the true community. And it's like, no, you're not. You're like 100,000 people at most, usually more like 10,000 people in a community of 6,000 accounts, or 6 million accounts. Oh yeah, Star Citizen famously had some of the Star Citizen subreddit was some of the most botted subreddits in Reddit at one point. Like top 10. When do you think we'll get hangars that can modify and add rooms? I don't know, Ian Wilson. That's a good question. I think that's definitely something I'd like to see CIG do, and I think they've mentioned it in the past, but I don't think we get that until around base building. Not because it has anything to do with base building, but I think that a lot of that is going to require stuff that's similar to base building, technology, stuff that. But I forgot you said it earlier. Crypto Arc, Cryptalk Arc is important. You, Cryptalk Arc, are the most normal person in this chat, other than the people who are like lurking, because that is in fact what most people do. Most people don't give a shit about a game that they don't want to play. That's why whenever I say, hey, if you're not enjoying yourself, don't play Star Citizen, I'm not saying that as a mean thing. I'm saying that Star Citizen can kick your ass. Star Citizen can fundamentally fuck you up. And it sometimes disrespects your time. Frequently disrespects your time and attention. So don't play it if you're having problems. History's written by the victors. Not true. That's a common aphorism, but it's not true. Never underestimate a spiteful a learned but spiteful oppressed class. There's plenty of records in history we know from people who lost. Yeah, I'm normal. You can call me Kark. Okay, yeah. Yes, history is written by the writers is the best way of putting it. It's written by the people who can read and write. But then again, not even that. There's plenty of oral histories that have been passed down from generation to generation that are preserved. Not as many as we hope, but... Question, do we know about Castra? When will we get it? And what do we know about about capital ship dry docks? We don't know a lot about the capital ship dry docks because, like, technically Orison is supposed to have capital ship dry docks, but we haven't seen them. But Castra, we know a lot about Castra. It's really old system. It's been around for 600 years or something like that. And that all that time it's been a military system. Sherman is the landing zone. It's the main base on CASCOM, which is Castra Command. Let's see. 2 planets in the system. The first planet is Bullseye. It's called that because it's a lifeless rock that was used to bombing practice from squadrons of bombers that were what's the term? Stationed there. We know that they mentioned that there's an orbital plate, which like a lot of bomber squadrons were located on. But I don't know if that'll be carried over into the modern lore. I think they'll probably just end up being at CASCOM. Modern Castra has 2 major companies. It has lots of companies, but it has 2 major manufacturers, which is Clark's Defense Systems and Kruger Intergalactic. Or Interplanetary. It's Intergalactic, I think. Let me look up Kruger. It might be aerospace, even that. Kruger Intergalactic, I was right. And when will we get it is a good question. I believe we'll get it by the end of next year. I think it's an easy end of the year win for CIG. Because at this point, it doesn't seem like there's much of a blockage for it, considering they're already putting out portions of Nyx. And Castra is very simple in comparison to Nyx. It's 2 planets. One's a dead world, which they may terraform. I don't think they need to because they already have a terraformed world with Castra, with CASCOM. And my guess is going to be a lot more heavy on UEE stuff because it's on the border of Xi'an space as well. So it's like Xi'an human stuff. They said it was coming with Nyx with 1 year. Within 1 year was one of the first things CR said. What was X? What are you talking about? So Planetech V5 next year? Yes, 100%. because that's what Nyx won. My whole bullshit about Nyx 1 and the issues with Nyx 1 is because they decided to use Planetech V5 in Nyx rather than in Castra, which it was originally planned on it. In CitizenCon, Sierra said both Nyx and Castra were coming within the year ahead. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Hello and welcome, everyone from Tomato Stream. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the Astropub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pews.
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Fastcard just resubscribed for 23 months. Thanks to @o_lefty for my sub gift.
Thank you for that. That 12 months of support. You rock. Shots and cheers, chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. God.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship. Are we doing this on Thursday,
Take away my
Tomato?
space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
No pews.
But you can never,
Never.
ever
Ever.
take away my space game.
Oh, it's his birthday. Happy birthday to the Toad. Thank you so much for that 53 months of support.
Shogi_HR just gifted 5 subs.
Thank you for getting those 5 subs. They show you a very important pupper, very impressive person, very neat pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers and chat. Yeah, shots and cheers. Pickle Skin says, good Lord, man, get some decent lighting. Get thee to a...
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my
some
space
manners.
suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
No pews.
But you can never,
Never.
ever
Ever.
take away my space game.
The Red Huntress just resubscribed for 26 months. Astropub. I put you on a list for streamers to raid for another up-and-coming SC streamer who loves lore.
Let me know. I love talking lore. You know that there, Red Huntress. You're very important, pupper, very impressive, Pennsylvania pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers and chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. God damn. We can do a special stream tomorrow. Chat. Here's the plan. Tomato reached out to me and said, "Hey Paul, do you want to watch the last Star Citizen holiday live stream live on Twitch and get drunk?" And I said, "Say less." So, if we can do it, 5 p.m. PST is fine for me. That's great. So I will stream with Tomat as we watch it together. I'm sure in like Discord or something like that, and we'll make some good jokes and shit like that. I have done this before. In fact, here, let me pull it up. I have it here. Was it last year? No. It was 2023, I believe. Here we go. I still have the thumbnail, which I will reuse. This is an actual clip from the live stream. It was super easy to make because behind them was green. I used to do it in July. It was Christmas in July. We're on July 25th. We would watch it. 100% AI. Yes, 100% AI. You got to see. It was awful. I'm sorry. I know this has been asked 100 times, but I forgot. When is your estimation of base building again? Not next year. Probably 2026 or 2027, I should say. 2027. Yeah, the last time we did this, it drove Tyler out of hiding, and he actually went to come watch the stream. What system do you think after Terra? Do you think they'll start working their way to Sol, or maybe adding systems that will be in Squadron 42 Part 2? I mean, they'll add systems that are in Squadron 42 Part 1, like Odin. I think the easiest one for them to do after the first 5 is Hadrian. The longer I've thought about it, the more I've been driving towards Hadrian. I think Hadrian is the 6th system because it is simple, but it adds a very, very interesting loop. With the 5 systems releasing with 1.0, you always have to go through Pyro in order to get to Castra. But if you release Hadrian, you could completely bypass Pyro to get to anywhere in the verse at that point. Because there is a jump point from Stanton to Terra, and there's a jump point from Nyx to Castra, but not Nyx or Castra to Terra or Stanton. Right now there is, but that's gonna go away. But if you introduce Hadrian, there's a jump point from Nyx to Hadrian, and from Hadrian to Terra. And Hadrian is like 3 gas worlds. It's like an ice giant and 2 gas planets. It's mostly built out of space stations. Is mostly what's the big thing. I'm not doing a giveaway. That giveaway is... I forgot to turn off the answers, that is. Is Hadrian a wall? It's named after the Hadrian's Wall, because it was the wall of humanity against the Xi'an. It was one of the border worlds to Xi'an. Yeah, but won't CIG terraform those for giggles? That's the good question. I don't think they will, because the reason why Nyx 1 is being terraformed is because they needed a system for 1.0 that was not lawful, but not wild. And that's what Nyx 1 kind of comes in. It's going to be the peaceful, non-UEE sections. CIG could add, though. I don't know how difficult, but add Vanduul conquered systems for planets to designate. They could, which is Virgil. The Virgil system is also connected to, maybe not Hadrian, but it's definitely connected to Nyx. That's where all the Vanduul are coming from, is Virgil in Nyx. But I think Hadrian's the easy get because it's simpler and allows them to play around with station tools and allows for an easy route. Virgil's another option because it allows for Vanduul stuff. Obviously, Nyx is connected to Odin. Odin's an easy pick because it's part of Squadron, though I don't think all of Odin is actually built out. I think just portions of it are, and they probably have to rework it from Squadron to Star Citizen. Then there's Bremen, which is a pretty important system. It's where Consolidated Outland is, and it's connected to Terra, I believe, maybe even Pyro. And then, of course, there's Magnus. Magnus is where Drake is headquartered on Berea. Is connected to Stanton. So I think those are all good candidates for the first 5 systems after 1.0. Not Vega, Virgil. But the lore of Giggles is strong within CIG. That is true. What do you think we're coming with Nyx in the future? Also, Vaughn missions. The rep is heavy grind for a very light reward. I'm not max rep yet, but before it, it's nothing fancy. It's going to be UEE stuff, so stuff that's connected to the UEE. Yeah, the Vaughn missions are super old. They used to be the big ones. They gave you a lot of money. What about the horrors of Hadrian? Well, the cool thing about Hadrian is that it's filled with a bunch of abandoned stations. So they could do a bunch of different station scale contested zone style gameplay with its stations. If they wanted to, especially with instancing. But we'll see. We need more PvE missions where we can use all of the cap ships. That is what the whole point of the Tactical Fleet Ops is. They dumped the rep system saying it was going to be replaced, yet somehow it is returned. They are working on Rep 2.0. They talked about that in the last monthly report. But, you know. So do you think that we'll see a cost nerf or a payout buff anytime in the future? I find it crazy that I have wars of tens of billions, but solos have trouble scraping together a couple mil. That's just bugs. I have like 10 mil, maybe even 100 mil. I have no fucking idea why I have $100 million in my bank account. And it's not because, I don't think it's because I'm a streamer. I have 100 million UEC because of bugs. And those same bugs happen to my to other members of my org because of similar reasons. They added the Nyx Stanton jump tunnel to the star map. Why? Do they think it's temporary? It seems weird to me. Because they're not going to be updating the that jump tunnel to Castra until like November of next year. don't know why they added to the star map. It's weird. They did. And we're not talking about this in-game star map. We're talking about the out-of-game star map has it. You can sell one SCU of Quantanium for 10 million to players on UEX. Is it worth 10 million? Oh. Wicklow takes Quantanium. The Polaris. 4.5 has Idris and requires Polaris bits. It's the laziest fucking thing CIG has done, but I get it. Do I think UEE will try to claim Nyx with Nyx 1 being Ninja Terraformed? Yes. The question is, will CIG have the balls to actually tell the story where players have to choose between the UEE and the People's Alliance? The answer to that is probably not. I want to be wrong, but, you know. I just looked up, you can buy 100 billion AUEC for $2. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Oh. They really need to reset the economy at some point, but again, there's no reason to. There's nothing really to do. Full Polaris set was selling at 100 million around 344444. Now it's probably worth trillions, probably. You'd have an AUEC drain pool. Based off of the monthly reports, they're definitely in that direction. I think they'll start turning on insurance in the next year. Especially for gear insurance and stuff like that. Because the next version of the gear, what is it called? Item recovery? That's heavily hinted at being worked on, if not outright stated being worked on right now. So it's likely in the next 6 months.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No PPUs.
But you can never
Never. Holy shit, 3 months in
Ever.
advance.
take away my space game.
6 to 60 months. Oh yeah, sort of permanent, yeah.
Kiwi just resubscribed for 3 months.
Thank you much for that 3 months of support there. 3 months in advance there, Sniping Kiwi. You're very important, Papa Van, Precipice, or Penny Pedestrian. This is your fault. The return trigger night. Shots and cheers and chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. I think Virgil because of narrative. I think Virgil is on the list, but I think likely Hadrian is before Virgil only because it is simpler and it allows for easier transit. And it comes up a lot in concept art. Like a lot of the concept art for the whole A and the whole C is in Hadrian. And it's like, why are you choosing Hadrian to do this concept art of this one ship that you just released if you're not planning on Hadrian being a major part for your shipping gameplay and stuff like that? And that was for the record, that's how I knew, one of the reasons I knew Castra was one of the first systems to be in there, was part of that line of 5. And as I like to point out, I fucking called Castra 2 years before anyone else did. I maintained it. And I was fucking right. No problem, Sam Kiwi. Humble brag. I do not puff up my chest a lot when it comes to content creation and stuff like that. That I was actively called out as being wrong by other content creators. They weren't negative about it. It was just like, I don't think that's right. You know, I think Paul's stretching a little bit. But I was fucking right. You probably knew about Castra before CIG even did. I disagree that CIG doesn't know what they're doing. I guarantee you there's a list they have somewhere of all of the ideas of what the order they want to release in. And they'll probably shift things up and down. Because, again, there was just too many fucking concept art. There's way too much concept art for Castra. There was like shit tons of Castra, Sherman, and Cascom. Like there's just way too much like concept art compared to every other system. Some systems have like a shittily rendered 3D image that was created in like 2016, and that's it. But like outside of Terra and Stanton and even Pyro, like, and Nyx, there's only one other system that has as much concept art as Castra, or 2 other systems, and that is Hadrian and Spider. Cathcart. Incorrect. Paul is not being humble in the slightest. Absolutely not. Odin, technically, yes, because it's part of Squadron. They can put the horror stuff in as well, right? Yeah, probably. I mean, as I've learned is that Dave Haddock is a huge horror fan, so I assume it's going to be there. Rabble. Hades for System 6. I would rather they have Hades when they actually have an idea what the fuck they're going to do with Hades. I don't think they have a fucking clue what they're doing with Hades. I think the narrative team is like, yes. But I think the mission team is just like, I have no fucking idea what this is or care to even explain. Because dear God, as there are a lot of stories about Hades. Hades is like one of those systems that it's clear the writers really fucking like, because they constantly talk about it. But it's not too far. Hades has got a jump point from Bremen, and Bremen is, I think, got a jump point from Pyro. So Hey, Paul, I was watching Tomato Stream, and the NPC said, I heard the Vandul are so on edge because they're running from something else. That has been a discussion forever. They don't even know what they're doing with Nyx. They do and don't. The thing you got to remember is that the Vandul are based off the Vandals, and the Vandals were being pushed out of their territory into Roman territory before they began raiding and causing all sorts of trouble. And the people who were pushing them out were the Huns. So ever since the very beginning of the project, people have asked CIG, wait, so the Vandals, a Vandal are the Vandals, and they're raiding into UEE space, which is basically space Rome. And the Vandals were being pushed out of their territory by the Huns. Does that mean there's a Hun-like species that's pushing the Vandal out of their territory into ours? And I remember at least at one point, Aaron Roberts just smiled and said, that's the question. They're not subtle. It's clear that's the plan. The plan is that there is going to be another mystery race, which a lot of people think is the Krthok. It could be something else, who will show up in either a single player game like Squadron or as a major multiplayer event. Now, we know that the Krthok was the creation of Wingman. And Wingman was the one who said it was going to be some kind of like robotic race. Alice would be a difficult system to do. Ellis as a system is huge and has a lot of content. So I wouldn't expect Ellis to be around until much later in Star Citizen's development, unless they absolutely needed it for pathing. Because you also need Nexus at that point. And Nexus is a clusterfuck. So that race is called the Expansion. Possibly. If Chris Roberts can negotiate it, I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes the fucking Kirathi. If is someone who sold 3 of the new passkeys for the tech smugglers for 450 million each. I really hope they reset the economy. I can see that too. The remnants of Oratani. That would be a good twist. The reason why the Vandul explicitly hate humanity is because they're being driven out of their systems by the Oratani, who are themselves humans, who were abandoned because of a collapsed jump point. And because they never had to deal with the Mezzers, they're much more advanced than humanity. Hence why regen tech seems to work so easily with us. If Sierra gets Wing Commander IP rights, how might that change the lore? Probably wouldn't do much. At the most, Chris would probably use the Star Citizen engine to do like recreations of the game, of like the first game, maybe. Will we ever get more exotic systems with black holes or neutron star? In fact, there are 2 systems, one with a neutron star and one with a black hole, that are in the lore. The black hole system is called Tamsa. And the neutron star system is called... Fuck, I have to look that up. It's actually a pretty famous system. TAMSA is pretty new. But the neutron star system is old. It's been around forever. Okay, Hyperion. Or Banshee. That's the name of the system. Banshee. Oh, it's not a neutron star, it's a pulsar. There's a neutron star. I don't remember. Oh, no, that is a neutron star, isn't it? Won't it have a lot of content to it? It will. It's the starter system. It's going to be the main system for Star Citizen until Sol comes in. But like Ellis would be the equivalent of like a Stanton style system. It's huge, got lots of landing zones, lots of content in it. What has the lore told us about the battlecruiser so far? Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Dual stole regen tech from the Ortani. We stole from the duel. Yeah. I think that would be a very good twist because it's clear, and I mean crystal fucking clear, that CIG intends the Ortani to have survived. They went out of their way to make Ortani the system intentionally, possibly entirely self-sustainable. Yeah, Banshee is interesting because it in Banshee, which is a neutron or a pulsar, there is Lorana, which is Banshee 3. It has a settlement on it, but that settlement is underground. So think Lorville, but on a planet. Not Lorville, Levski, but on a planet. Best part about Banshee is that Banshee actually has a link to the TAMSA system, which is hilarious. Let me pull up the... All right. So. Here we are right here. Boop, boop, boop. So there's Terra, Hadrian, Castra, Nyx. Right now it has a Ascent and Nyx, which is weird, but, you know. We know that's not going to be forever. They said that's temporary. It's weird that they put it on there. But Nyx has a jump point to Bremen, and Bremen has a jump point to Vega. Now, when it comes to Banshee. Banshee's probably over here by Sol. It's one of the first ones. There it is. Okay. So it's down here. So Banshee, and there's Tamsa. Banshee is near Vandal territory. But you have to go to Fora, Nemo, Nexus, or Nemo, Hades, Nexus, Ellis, Magnus, Stanton. So it's a pretty far away. The other option would be go to Garen, Idris, Farron, Davian, Kano, Pyro. Where's the Oratani system? Somewhere around here. I think it's on the map. It's off of Farron. It's Farron. There's Bremen and Vega. You just search for it. Yeah, it's right here. Oratani. So it was the Farron to the Oratani system. And it's right by Vandal Space. Like it's like 3 jumps away from Seoul. And grouping up for group play is going to be even more of a bear as some more systems come in. Yeah, which is the reason why social systems are so important. And I also think things like CIG has, or at least the fans have, and I think some CIGs have sort of hinted at the idea of like a public transport system you could use when you're sort of offline traveling, where you can like book a flight on a Genesis Starliner and then like leave the game and your character will go to a location and then immediately get dropped off over time. Yeah, we don't know. The Oratani might be super advanced humans pushing out the Vandal. We don't know. Alrighty. I'll be right back and we'll kind of wrap this up. Ugh. Offline traveling would be great, but still a chance of getting interdicted? I don't think so. I think offline travel would be slow but reliable. If the Oratani are the ones pushing the Vandu, wouldn't the Banu go, hey, aren't you humans on the other side of our territory? No, because the Banu don't care. The Banu knew about the Xi'an and probably the Vandul for several hundred years before humanity ran into them, and the Banu didn't say shit. Or maybe maybe slow or an option for masters with risks. Yeah, I don't think you get an offline mode without offline travel mode without making it guaranteed, so people don't have to like. Because the worst thing you could do is like pay for some travel so you can meet up with your friends, and then you come back and find out that your transport got interdicted, and so now you're dead, and you come back to your original spawn location. You probably just fucking punch your screen through. It's like, what's the fucking point of it at that point? Coma class was the idea for the Google 1 to 10,000 thing. People in long haul flights take general aesthetic and just sleep in in racks on the plane. Less oxygen, heat use, no food, SCV needed, etc. Yeah, exactly. Like they already have cryo tubes. You could easily get a system where you just load into a cryo tube and they store you in a cargo freighter and you fuck off and then you come back. The Banu sort of border. Here, let me show you. So, this is the Vandul systems, or these are the Banu systems, and these are the Vandul systems. They are pretty close together. There might be more Banu systems we don't know about that border the Vandul, or the Vandul might have some jump points over here, but generally speaking, they're pretty close to each other. Even the green systems or the Xi'an, even the Xi'an have experience with the Vandul. Which you kind of see here with Volt, Kronos, and Virtus over here. The funniest part is that Virgil is here. And Nyx is here, but Nyx has got a jump point all the way to Virgil. Like halfway across the fucking galaxy. No, I guess what you're saying, Jaded. The question is, how expensive is anesthesiology and also like the risks involved for that? But what I'm saying is that in game, you could do something similar with just pop your ass in cryo and they throw you in the back of a freelancer and fuck off kind of thing. They're the Ferengian Star Citizen? Kind of. They're show them the back door to the Sol system. I mean, there's really only 2 jumps out of Sol. So you can either go to the Davian system, which then gets you to like Cathcart, or to Killian, which gets you to Ellis, which gets you to Magnus and Stanton, and so on and so forth. Or you go to the Croshaw system. If you go to the Croshaw system, you immediately run into a problem. Because if you go to Null, that borders Caliban. So that's on the border of UEE and Vandal space. If you go to Farron, you can go back to Davian, which is in that direction, or go to Idris, which is itself right next to Vandal space. So Sol is only 3 jumps away from Vandal space. Oh, yeah. You mean from like Virgil to Sol or something? Almost certainly that's a squadron thing, though. There are not, like CIG has said, there will be unknown jump points that you can discover to other systems. Many of those systems will already be discovered. So you might have a system that might have a jump point that you discover from Nyx to Terra. Banu also don't value profit over things. They would rather achieve a good deal. The best transactions where both parties are happy. Yes, but they also want uniqueness. Not necessarily money, but uniqueness. The Banu are not the Ferengi in a sense. The Ferengi value profit over everything. The Ferengi are hyper-capitalists. The Banu are hyper-mercantilists. The Banu believe that the best thing is being unique and being good at your craft. There's a reason why the Banu ship was called the fucking Merchantman. They used a lot of references to like the Yankee Clippers and stuff like that. The idea being we're talking like end of the mercantile era, beginning of the capitalism era of like economic thinking. Where like trade guilds were still dominant and that kind of stuff. Transient jump points or permanent jump points? Both. We'll see transient jump points, but the transient jump point would be like a transient jump point from Stanton to Pyro. Where like it connects to the main jump point, but its entrance is completely different, further away from the actual entrance to the jump point. So you basically have a temporary secret entrance where you don't have to go through the main entrance to get to the same location. But there will also be permanently new jump points you'll discover, which will connect to brand new systems, but more than likely already known systems. He's talking about the undiscovered jump point that supposedly the Vanduul will use to sack Earth, mirroring the fall of Rome. Theoretically, it's from Sol to Virgil. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm really looking forward to crafting all that. Best case scenario, July. I want to be wrong, but best case scenario is like June or July is when we'll see crafting. Highly more likely we see it at the end of next year. But then again, CIG can prove me wrong. They haven't done so in years, but they could. All right, y'all. I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching for the office hours. We do these on Mondays and Thursdays. In the new year, it'll be just Mondays. Though I might do in January, I might be doing them again. I stream Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. During the weekdays, I stream from 7 p.m. or so 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then on weekdays or weekends, I stream from 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, going forward. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.